As organizational leaders, working professionals, and members of a multicultural, multigenerational world, there is so much talk regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion, and specifically the why behind it all. But what do these terms even mean? And what does this work truly entail? Well, I'm here to talk about the foundational building blocks to understanding, navigating, and leading diversity, equity, and inclusion in your workplaces, as well as your communities. By the way, I'm Raven Solomon, the founder and CEO of Raven Solomon Enterprises, your trusted diversity, equity, and inclusion education and consulting firm. As you embark on your own personal journey of becoming an individual that's inclusive, or maybe even an inclusive leader, I invite you, I challenge you, I urge you to approach the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion through 6 core elements of DEI. We at RSC like to call them the 6 building blocks of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, diversity, equity, and inclusion, or as we like to call it, DEI, can be understood as a broader collection of 6 building blocks or pillars of a much larger area of work and indeed life. These 6 building blocks include language, identity, bias, systems, value, and behavior. The first building block, language, is all about understanding the key terminology and definitions of DEI and drawing some very crucial distinctions between them all. Through understanding language, we become more prepared to effectively communicate the vital message of inclusion and to lead its work. Building block number 2 is identity. In understanding identity, we open ourselves up to understanding both ourselves and the world around us in nuanced, multifaceted ways. Now, the third building block is bias. Being aware of our biases, their sources, and how to mitigate their harm really does allow us to become more self-aware and more inclusive in our everyday actions. The fourth building block, though, is essential. It's not just about the interpersonal interactions we have with one another and ourselves, it's about systems. Approaching both DEI and work through a systems thinking approach really does help us identify new solutions to these age-old problems that have created harm for many, for centuries. The fifth building block is value. Understanding the value of DEI makes this work applicable to your day-to-day interactions, the projects you work on, the tasks you're assigned, and your long-term goals. The final building block, the sixth, is all about behavior, though, because inclusive behavior builds relationships that are founded on trust and a mutual capacity of respect. We can understand these 6 building blocks to make up the 3 phases of diversity, equity, and inclusion, what we at RSC like to call the what, the why, and the how, or discovering, embracing, and activating DEI. When we understand what DEI is, we can discover the intercultural opportunities that really await us. When we explore why DEI is important, we can embrace the responsibilities that you and I have as allies. And when we know how to lead DEI, we can activate the inclusive behaviors that drive our organizations and our communities forward. At the foundation of each of the 6 building blocks of DEI is an understanding of the roles that our identities, intersectionality, our unique privileges, and our lived experiences play in shaping our worldview and our life experiences. Understanding the 6 building blocks of DEI allows us to reimagine the roles that you and I play in achieving equity and fostering inclusion. Both individual behavior and systemic change will create the world in which we hope we aspire to both live in and leave for future generations to come. I hope you join me in continuing to learn about these 6 building blocks of diversity, equity, and inclusion as we uncover the what, the why, and the how of this work. In other words, as we discover, as we embrace, and as we activate DEI.